you are more relaxed this thing. Okay, more relaxed. But if it shifts to the right side, okay, what causes it? Because low pH. Low pH means more acidic. More acidic indicate also the concentration of carbon dioxide in your blood is high. Low pH increase CO2 and high temperature and high biphosphoglycerol. And then this means that this sends the signal to the hemoglobin to deassociate the oxygen. Oxyhemoglobin will deassociate with oxygen because due to the low pH and high concentration of carbon dioxide in the body. The implication, oxygen affinity to hemoglobin is lower. Means when the oxygen affinity of the hemoglobin is lowered, it tends to release the oxygen. And when the oxygen being released by the oxyhemoglobin, it will increase the oxygen that delivered to the active tissue. Okay, this happens usually when you are exercising, when you are doing something active. This happens. You will learn more about this in homeostasis. Okay, Bohr effect. There are event that we call as Bohr effect, or the effect of carbon dioxide concentration. The changes of carbon dioxide partial pressure could also affect the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen by changing pH of hemoglobin. When the carbon dioxide partial pressure increases, the pH will decrease, and the oxygen dissociation curve could shift to the right side. And when this occurs, the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen is lowered. This is known as Bohr effect. In this event, oxygen is released from oxyhemoglobin because the affinity of hemoglobin towards oxygen is lowered due to the low pH and high carbon dioxide. So more oxygen will be supplied to the tissue. This could happen when your muscle demands more oxygen or during the active exercise. Okay, beside the common hemoglobin we talked before this, we also have foetal hemoglobin. This is for the fetus inside the womb of the mother. Fetus in the womb only get the supply of oxygen from their mother. The continuous oxygen supply from mother to fetus facilitated by the property of the fetal hemoglobin, HbF, which has a higher affinity towards oxygen compared to the mother's hemoglobin. Mother's hemoglobin is adult hemoglobin. Fetus hemoglobin is fetal hemoglobin. Fetal hemoglobin has a higher affinity towards oxygen compared to the mothers. This is why the oxygen dissociation curves of fetal hemoglobin is on the left side of the adult hemoglobin. In the maternal blood, the higher pressure of carbon dioxide compared to the fetal blood. This means oxygen is released in the maternal blood and higher binds of oxygen by fetal hemoglobin. The double Bohr effect could happen and causes both HbF and HbA curves to shift to the opposite direction. Okay. Gaseous exchange between the mother and the fetus in the placenta is less efficient as compared to the exchanges in the lungs due to several factors. Okay. First, the exchange in the placenta, okay, means when we said about the exchange in the placenta, mother supply the oxygen to the fetus. The exchange in the placenta is carried out by two bloods, maternal and fetal. where the rate of diffusion for dissolved gases is slower than between blood and gas in the lung. The minimum distance for diffusion of gases in the placenta is larger than that at the alveoli in the lungs. The total surface area for gases exchange in placenta is smaller compared to the lungs in the mother. Okay, this is why when we compare gases exchange mother to fetus in the placenta, because for fetus, how to get oxygen? Supplied by the mother, okay, by using the placenta. It is less efficient if we compare the gases exchange that occur in the lung, in the adult hemoglobin, in a common situation, means the mother exchange of the oxygen in the mother's lung, compared to the exchange of gases in the placenta, because mother to the fetus mother supply the oxygen to the fetus. Okay, now we talk about human myoglobin. Human myoglobin, yeah. Human myoglobin. Myoglobin is a molecule binds strongly to a single oxygen molecule to form oxymyoglobin. The myoglobin disassociation curve is hyperbolic in shape and lies to the left of hemoglobin. This shows that myoglobin has a higher affinity towards oxygen and could bind better. Oxygen from oxymyoglobin only be released when oxygen partial pressure is very low. Due to this property of myoglobin, it allows myoglobin to store more oxygen in muscles. This would be useful during the rigorous muscle activity. So myoglobin, okay, we can compare that myoglobin versus hemoglobin. In myoglobin, higher oxygen affinity and respond to muscles and oxygen in need. In hemoglobin, they have a sigmoidal curve. Okay, the purple one here is a sigmoidal curve of hemoglobin. Okay, and compared to myoglobin, myoglobin is more efficient when bind to oxygen, and this is in your active muscle. Why? Because in active muscle, when you're exercising, the muscle need more oxygen, and due to efficiency of myoglobin in your muscle bind to the oxygen molecule and forming oxymyoglobin, and this store the oxygen in the muscle, because myoglobin is in your muscle, store more oxygen in the muscle, because to ensure that your muscle, your active muscle, when you are doing exercising, when you are doing sport activity, your muscle supply with enough oxygen. Because when you are exercising, when you are doing active sport, your muscle tissue demand more oxygen. So there you go, myoglobin there to supply, to ensure enough supply of oxygen for your active muscle. Okay, we control of breathing mechanism. Breathing is the movement of air Breathing is the movement of air into and out of the lungs, generated by differences in pressure within the lungs compared to the surrounding atmospheric pressure. The need to breathe is controlled by an area where responses to regulate the breathing muscle occur according to the levels of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the blood. Okay, it involves first the mechanic. Okay, your diaphragm, your muscle, your rib cage, and second also involve the chemoreceptor in your nervous system, your your coordination, means your brain. Inhalation, okay, we start with inhalation. In inhalation, likewise, air is brought into the lung through trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and to the alveoli. External intercostal muscle contract, moving that cage up and out. When you inhale, external intercostal muscle contract, moving, and the cage up and out. Volume of the thoracic activity increases. Air going into the lung, the diaphragm contract and becomes flatter shape. This one is mechanic, flatter shape, okay? The diaphragm contract and becomes flatter shape. In exhalation, when you exhale, dia terbalik. It becomes the opposite. Internal intercostal muscle contract and moving the rib cage down and in. The rib cage is pulled downwards and inwards, and abdominal muscle contract and pushing the diaphragm into the dome shape. And this will push out the air out of the lung. This will push the air move out of the lung. This one is mechanic. Okay. Respiratory muscle, okay, known as effectors. Breathing is an automatic action controlled by the respiratory control center, your brain, ya. Otak kita yang mengawal. Tadi itu ialah mechanism ataupun daripada sudut mechanical. But actually your brain will control your breathing. Respiratory center, control center, communicate with intercostal muscle through the intercostal nerves. Okay, intercostal nerves. These nerves here. Chemoreceptors act as a sensors. The most important to sense, okay, to detect is the concentration of carbon dioxide and the pH level. Okay, central chemoreceptors can be found in the medulla oblongata. These chemoreceptors that act as a sensor are sensitive to the pH level, because when your pH level is low, indicate concentration of CO2 is high. When chemoreceptors at the carotid body detect changes in pH level, CO2 concentration, okay, impulses ascend to the inspiratory center and subsequently to the effector. The effector tadi ialah organ tadi, okay, respiratory organ. And when this happen, it will trigger the organ, the muscle, the intercostal muscle, okay, that we call it mechanoreceptor to inhale and exhale, to inhale and exhale, inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. Take in the oxygen and push out the carbon dioxide. Mechanoreceptors in the bronchial tree help maintain any expansions in the lungs and the size of the airways. This one also you can learn better in, you can learn more in homeostasis. When you involve in active exercise, okay, you are jogging, you are doing active exercise. Aerobic respiration in the muscle rise and increase the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the blood. And when when in your blood there are more carbon dioxide, pH level drop. Okay, when pH level drop, your chemoreceptors will sensitive to that. Okay, will sensitive to the pH level and the pressure of the carbon dioxide. Okay, when it will detected by the chemoreceptors and impulses